Okay, take two. So you're gonna come up a couple minutes early before you're actually gonna start, and you just kind of go into, hi everybody, I'm Chuck. I'm one of the physical therapists here. I'm gonna be doing the shoulder workshop. We're not scheduled to start yet. We're waiting for a few people, so I just wanted to come in, introduce myself, and let you know that in your packet there's a worksheet. If you pull it out, it's gonna be a certain color. We're gonna be going through that, but I just had some questions for you. So who here is having shoulder pain? Okay, understood. So who's here that maybe got drugged by a persistent spouse or a significant other? And sometimes you'll have some of those, and if you have one of those, I totally get it. I hope we get you some answers and maybe something you can do to help your shoulder pain. So the other thing I wanted to know is what kind of things makes your shoulder hurt? And they're gonna start throwing things out. I always write it over on the right side because I keep it up the whole time. So somebody say maybe, dressing and reaching. And if they say reaching, so, well, what kind of reaching? What are you reaching for? And they might say, the back of the car. They might say in the cabinet. They might say reaching for their bra strap to take care of. What other kinds of things? And if somebody doesn't throw it out, you say, so what about sleeping? Anybody have trouble sleeping? Oh yeah, sleeping. It's winter time, so sometimes you have to prime them a little bit. So what about gardening? Anybody like to garden? Yeah. So does that bother you when you go? Oh yeah, okay. So gardening, and so I suppose that include yard work too, right? And get their, yeah, okay. So yard work, so there's all right. And the reason you do that is so people can start to see that, oh, somebody else has pain doing the same thing that I do, and they start to kind of become a club. So, okay, well that's great. It looks like it's time to start. I'm not sure everybody's here, but we're gonna get going so that we can get through this and get you some good information. So, again, there's a worksheet. We're gonna go through it line by line. I'm gonna kind of talk about each line a little bit extra. So, take your worksheet out and you can keep track of that. Actually, you can even fill in the answers if you want to. And the other thing is this is a very informal workshop, so anytime you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll be happy to answer it for you, okay? All right, so here we go. Shoulder pain. We're gonna start with number one. So what's in your shoulder and how does it work? So the bones in your shoulder joint are made up of your humerus, or your arm bone, and your shoulder blade for the most part. So nobody laugh at my drawing. So here's that humerus, that arm bone, and here's your shoulder blade. Okay, so it's a ball and socket joint. So that ball fits in there like that, and the ligaments are very loose. Here it says ligaments in your shoulder are naturally loose, allowing lots of motion. That's why we can do this and all kinds of movements, because those ligaments allow the joint to move around a lot. So what keeps your joint together? That's your rotator cuff. And here's kind of how that works. Your rotator cuff has 4 muscles. This diagram is looking from behind. So we have one muscle, one rotator cuff muscle up here, one rotator cuff muscle here, and one rotator cuff muscle here. Okay? And all 3 of those guys, they go over and they attach to your arm bone. And what they do is they help to keep that shoulder joint all lined up and stuck together so that it doesn't dislocate, like it says in the last one. Your muscles around your shoulder joint help to keep the joint from dislocating. So if those muscles weren't pulling, that would just kind of fall down. So that's as sophisticated an anatomy lesson I'm going to throw at you. And so before we get started with that, the next question is, who's Chuck Schulte, and why should I listen to anything he has to say about physical therapy? Many moons ago, when I was in college, I was a baseball player, and I was a pitcher. And I hurt my shoulder, had terrible shoulder pain, I injured my rotator cuff, and I ended up spending more time in the athletic training room than I did out on the baseball field. And so I didn't like that. So I was a very attentive student, or an attentive patient in the athletic training room to try and fix my shoulder pain. And when it didn't seem to be happening, I started studying even more about the shoulder and actually started working in the training room as a student trainer to learn more. And ultimately, I did fix my shoulder. The Yankees did not call, That's why you and I are having this conversation now. But I've always had an interest in shoulder, and so as a physical therapist, I've kind of applied that and really like working with shoulder problems. So, the other thing that I just wanted to take a brief minute and share with you about Diamond Physical Therapy. We've been around for 25 years, and I think what sets us apart from a lot of people is 60% of the people we see are either past patients, people we've helped before, or they've been sent or referred by past patients. So that kind of tells us we're doing something right if we have that many people coming back for help. The other thing that I think sets us apart from a lot of places is that we have a 97% patient satisfaction rate. So what the heck is patient satisfaction? Well, one of them is that we get you results. And that's actually plastered over there on the wall. That's our goal. We want to get you the results that you want. But the other thing that I think helps us to get this 97% patient satisfaction is just the general experience. Everybody at Diamond Physical Therapy loves to help people, whether it's the front desk or the billing department or the therapist. We want to make this a very personal experience. If you ever had a doctor or a dentist or somebody like that, they're really good, but you just did not enjoy going to see them because maybe they weren't very friendly, maybe they didn't answer your questions, they were just kind of in and out, and that's not a very good experience. Well, that's not what is going to happen when you come to see us. So I think this is what sets us apart. Enough about me and enough about us. Let's talk about shoulder pain. Okay. So when somebody comes for therapy, we're on number 3 now. When somebody comes for therapy, the big thing is we want to make sure if their pain is reproducible. And what does that mean? Well, reproducible means if you do something and it makes it hurt more, you've reproduced your pain. We call that, in geeky mechanical physical therapy terms, sometimes we call that mechanical pain. We have some folks that come in from time to time and they say, oh, you know, my shoulder, oh, it's a 4 out of 10. It really hurts. And we ask them, does it hurt to do anything? No, it's just 4 out of 10 all the time. And we move them around, we test them, their pain never changes. That pain's not reproducible. That means that pain's not mechanical. That means they're not a very good candidate for physical therapy at all. Something else is causing their pain, and it's something that they really need to look into. Different kind of diseases and cancer can cause all kinds of pain, and they're not mechanical pain, so it's not going to change. So if by some chance somebody in the room feels like they're sort of in that boat, when we're all done, I would love to talk to you and help you figure out how you can get the answers that you need. But if your pain is reproducible, you are an excellent candidate for physical therapy. Because if your pain is reproducible, then it is reducible. And the reason it's reducible is if we know that somebody reaching in a certain direction has their pain, as therapists, we know all the muscles and the joints and ligaments. We kind of reverse engineer it to figure out what's causing that. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about what's the cause of your pain. So we can reverse engineer it, figure out what it is, and then we fix that so that we can reduce it. So on this list, can anybody think of anything else since we talked in the beginning that causes your pain? And some people may throw some things up. You can throw them on there. If you look and see something you want to throw on, say, oh, I was thinking of one. How about this one? And ask them, does anybody have pain when they do that? And you just make that list a little bit bigger. So the next thing is, okay, so let's say it's reproducible. The next question is, where's your pain really coming from? And there are lots of times when arm pain can actually come from your neck. And it's like people who have sciatica. And sciatica is pain in your leg caused by a problem in your back. Well, the same thing can happen in your neck. You can have something going on in your neck and that pain goes down your arm. So we have special tests that we do to figure out, is it a neck problem or a shoulder problem? And unfortunately, sometimes you can have both, which makes it even a little more trickier, but we see folks like that too, and we help them a lot. So, talking about that reproducible business, let's do a little experiment. I want everybody to stand up. And usually they're pretty agreeable. If they're not, it's okay. Encouragement, you can stand up, all right? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the arm you're having trouble with, and I want you to lift it up over your head like this. So you're looking for people who are cringing or having a little bit of trouble. And then you can ask them if you got room. So lift it this way, so you're looking for people who have some trouble. And then the other thing you want them to do is turn to the side of your painful shoulder and tip to the side of your painful shoulder, because we're looking for a first rib. And you're watching people do that, and when you see somebody who you think's a good candidate for that, or you can just ask them, so did anybody have pain tipping their head to the side of their painful shoulder? Oh yeah, I did. Invite them up. And you can invite them up and say, so, all right, so you have pain in your shoulder, and when you turn your neck, it hurts some too, right? Okay. I bet I can fix that in 5 minutes. Would you like to come up and let me try that? And everybody's looking for a freebie, so they're usually willing to come up. So introduce them, thank them, take a really brief history, check them out a little bit, and then do whatever it is you want to do. First rib mobs, some thoracic mobs, whatever you want to do that can create just a little bit of a quick change. So you test them, you treat them, you retest them, and when they lift their arm and it feels better and their eyes get big, say, wow, that's great. What's that feel like? They say, oh, I can move it better. Great. So, and they just turn to God. So there's an example of how it can be really easy to change somebody's pain. So, Carol, thank you very much. I'm glad you're feeling better. In fact, I want to talk to you after the workshop because I think I have some ideas to make that better for good. Thanks, Carol. And Carol goes back and sits down. Okay, so we've all had shoulder problems and shoulder pain, and so I got a question for you. What do you think the single biggest mistake most shoulder pain sufferers make? And they'll throw some things out, and you just keep encouraging them and welcoming them, yeah. And somebody will finally come up with ignore, or you can paraphrase it for them, or you can just say, I think the biggest problem is ignoring shoulder pain. So can anybody think of a problem that if you ignore it forever, if you ignore it long enough, is it going to get better or is it going to get worse? Most people will say worse. I say, yeah, so when you ignore stuff, it gets worse. So why do people ignore it? And they'll throw a bunch of things out there and just let them throw them out. You acknowledge that. Yeah, oftentimes what we hear as therapists are lots of reasons that actually they kind of sound like excuses and not so much reasons. But here's where I think that comes from, is that they've tried everything, it's not going away, and they just kind of become hopeless. In fact, sometimes I've had patients say, well, my doctor told me I just have to live with it. And so if it's not going to change and you just have to live with it, well, I'm not going to pay any attention to it. That's a big problem, because that's what happens. So that's one thing you can do when you have a problem. The second thing that you can do when you have a problem is you can try and alter it. So how do people try and alter their shoulder pain? They'll come up with a bunch of different things and just acknowledge them and say, yeah, that and that and that. And what you're looking for is medications and injections. They may throw up their ice, and so whatever you can throw a whole bunch of things up there. And maybe somebody said they stopped doing things, and that's really the other one that we want to get. And that is, so they stopped doing things. And so you can even quiz them a little bit. What do you mean by that? And let them give a short little answer. And then I go into, they stop doing things. Here's how I think of that. If we do some circles, and all these circles describe all the things that you do in life, And the ones on the outside are really heavy, like the 40-pound bag, you know, of water softener salt, you know. And then inside's maybe not quite so heavy, so maybe that's just yard work. And then inside that, which maybe isn't quite as heavy, maybe it's just reaching for a glass in the cabinet. So somebody has shoulder pain, and you know what? It hurts to do that 40-pound water softener bag. You gonna stop doing it? Yeah, sure you are. Okay, and so now you continue to try some ice, or you're trying ibuprofen, or maybe you're even ignoring it, and over time, the yard work stuff is gonna start to hurt too. And so you know, now I can't do yard work. And you don't do anything about it other than trying to sort of treat the symptoms, or maybe you don't do anything, and it keeps getting worse. And so now I'm reaching for up into that cabinet. I put stuff down on the countertop. Now I can't even get up there. Until finally, you are right there. That's a bad place to be. I call that stop living. And this can take a long time to happen. It can take years to happen. But my point is that, you know, and we can help a lot of people in this spot get out to the good place if not too much damage has been done that's irreversible. The irreversible folks are either the people who get a joint replacement, or they're just stuck with it. They really are going to have to live with it. But you know what? It's not nearly as hard to get to there. So the quicker you stop ignoring it, and actually the quicker you stop just altering it and do the third thing, which is handle it. And handling it means to find the cause. And that's what we want to do. We want to find the cause of your pain. And when we find the cause and we fix the cause, then we fix your pain for good. So, speaking of causes, that's what we're going to talk about next. And there's not a lot of really special information in here. And the goal is actually, in that 5-minute miracle, you showed them you could fix something in a really short period of time. And that's really what has their attention. So let's talk about some causes. Okay, the 3 most common causes of shoulder pain. The first one is a rotator cuff, and I always let them participate, and they all yell tear. So the first one is a rotator cuff tear. And these are these muscles here, and if they get torn, they're not going to work very well, and they're going to hurt a lot, aren't they? So there's 3 classic signs of someone who has a rotator cuff tear. One of them is, and I had this one a lot when I was playing baseball, just a deep ache in your shoulder. In fact, my deep ache went down into my arm, and sometimes all the way down my forearm into my knuckles. Anybody have an ache that far down? Sometimes you'll get somebody like that. Okay, so the second cause is pain at night. And pain at night being like when you're trying to go to sleep. So sleep is not very good. Okay? And then the last one is something, it's actually one of the tests we do as physical therapists, and we're going to do that test in just a minute. It's called the drop arm test. So everybody stand up for just a moment, and we're going to do the drop arm test. So get enough space in between you, and here's what I want you to do. Let me show you first. You're going to lift your arm up like this, and you're going to bring it back down. So everybody try that, and they'll all try it. And so if someone has pain actually on the way up or on the way down, or even they may have that problem where it just kind of just sort of falls. If you have pain with that, there's a possibility that you have a rotator cuff tear. But here's the good news. And the good news is, I'm too lazy to write the whole word. The good news is a small tear does not equal surgery. We help lots of people with small rotator cuff tears and they recover. But here's the problem. If you ignore it, it becomes a large tear. And you may find yourself, oh, there it is, in that circle. And the only answer may very well be surgery. And we want to get some information out about this and help people figure out where their shoulder pain's coming from so that small tears don't turn into big ones and they end up having to have surgery. So, the next most common problem that causes shoulder pain anybody have any guesses on that? Can you think of what that is? It's not a real common one that people know the name of, and maybe somebody will throw it out and they won't. But it's called impingement syndrome. What in the world does that mean? Impingement, or pinching things. And so, like I said, you have these muscles in your rotator cuff, and I usually have a model up so I can flip it over and show them the subscap, that you have these four muscles, and you have two in the back and kind of one on the top and one in the front, and it keeps everything centered in there. I was thinking about it last week when I was watching one of the football games, and it's like the SkyCam, that camera that goes down and follows everybody around. That camera has 4 cables, and all those cables move in conjunction with the other nice and smoothly to keep that camera exactly where they want it. Well, that's what your rotator cuff does. It holds that in there, and they all pull from different directions even as you're moving to keep it centered right where it needs to be, where you want it to be, so you can do all those movements without pain. So what's impingement syndrome like? It's not a surgery kind of problem at all. We see folks with impingement syndrome all the time, and we get great results with that. So what makes it hurt? You can have pain at the end of a movement. Like maybe it hurts, like, oh, when I get up there. Or if I start to reach across, I'm okay. Oh, now it starts to hurt at the end. Or the other thing is kind of in the middle of a movement, where you lift your arm up, I'm okay. Oh, God, that hurts, it hurts. Oh, yeah, now it's better. There's a little speed bump in there. So it can hurt in the middle. Those are signs that you have an impingement problem. So, impingement. Things are getting pinched, rubbed, squished a little bit. We're bringing ignore back into the picture. If you ignore it, what do you think is going to happen? Somebody will probably say worse. See, yeah. So that worse, what does that worse become? And you can say, yeah, remember when I said small tears become big tears? Impingement can lead to a small tear. And if you keep ignoring it, what do small tears become? Yeah, they become large ones. And you're off to see the surgeon. So impingement syndrome is not a serious condition, but if you ignore it, it sure does, because everything gets worse when you ignore it, right? Mm-hmm. There's one other condition that ignoring impingement over the years can create, and that's actually the third one. So as you're erasing stuff, you can sort of make whatever comments you want. Don't ever feel like you have to hurry and race. That gives their brains a second or two to kind of recover. Okay, so the third one is, as you look at letter C here, it's DJD, or plain old, and DJD stands for degenerative joint disease. Or plain old what? Somebody usually guesses, but if they don't, yeah, it's plain old arthritis. And when you have arthritis, you have, the fancy word is crepitus. The everyday word is crunching, or grinding when you're moving your arm. Okay. The other thing that happens is you have pain. You have pain. Oops, that's not right. The other one is you can have some stiffness and some pain in the morning, and it hurts to move, but as you keep moving, so if you move it enough, it kind of starts to loosen up. Feels a little better, but you still got that pain with moving it around. It will lessen, but it's still there. And then the other thing is you can lose range of motion. ROM, range of motion, because they don't know ROM. And so either you can't reach behind like you used to be able to, you can't reach out that way that you used to be able to. So if you have any of those things going on, there's a good chance that you have arthritis. Here's the good news about arthritis. Arthritis responds to physical therapy really well. Just because you have wear and tear on your joint doesn't mean you have to have pain. There are lots of people walking around with arthritis and they don't really have any pain. Something else caused your pain, and that's the whole trick. If I beat you over the head with anything today, that is, we're going to find the cause of your pain. Because arthritis takes years to develop. So if all of a sudden you're hurting like that, well, wasn't there arthritis? Because that's been there for a couple of years. Something else tweaked it. And when you have arthritis, sometimes it's a little harder to get over. You need a little help to get it better. And we do that all the time. So those are the 3 common causes of shoulder pain. So the next question, I guess, would be, how do we treat shoulder pain? So here's what we do. The big thing is that we find like I said, we find the cause. We don't just treat the symptoms. We don't just try and alter it. We find the cause and we handle it. So what we do is, I like to call it a manual style of physical therapy. Okay? And what does that mean? Here's the things we do in physical therapy to help you. One of the things is, I like to call it hands-on PT. That's where we get in and we move the joint and the bones and the things that are stiff and not moving the way they're supposed to. A lot like Carol, if you had a first rib person, or if you did something else, you did some other moves. Like Carol earlier, we moved some of those things around and stuff started feeling better. But that's not enough. We also have to do some things to help build your strength back. Because strength controls your shoulder. Oops. Remember, like I said, that SkyCam thing and those 4 cables? That's what your rotator cuff does. So if your rotator cuff muscles aren't strong enough, then you can get impingement or you can get arthritis. And if it continues to get worse, these guys have to work so hard and everything is going awry that then you do end up tearing your rotator cuff. One of the other things we do is we get you on a home exercise program. We show you things that you can do on your own to be working on this independent of us. And then there's a couple other things that we've been doing in the last year that have been really helpful. One is called dry needling, and the other one is deep tissue laser therapy. And we're actually doing a presentation on that at 2 o'clock today. So if you got any questions, this would be a great one to sit in on and find out how we've been helping a lot of people. There's one last thing I want to say about this, and that is this hands-on physical therapy where we move things. That helps. It doesn't fix everything. And strength and exercising. That helps too by itself, but it doesn't fix everything. But if you do both, that fixes a lot of problems. And I think that's what sets us apart from a lot of folks. We do both. So, how'd I do, everybody? And they'll all applaud and thank you. And here's where it's really important. They say a couple of nice thank yous, and then you don't want them to start in with a bunch of questions, because that's gonna interfere with us getting them to take the step to sign up. So how'd I do? Great. All right. Thank you very much. So I noticed something. All of you saw one of our ads somewhere, and you raised your hand by either calling in or signing up online. You came in on a Saturday when you probably had 50 other things that you could do. You sat here for 45 minutes to an hour to listen to me kind of go on and on about shoulder pain. So I gotta believe that everybody in here is looking for help. Am I right? And you need to nod. If you nod, everyone will nod. If you don't nod, only a couple people will nod. So am I right? And they'll all nod. So, okay, so I have a trick question for you. Who wants their shoulder pain to get worse? And raise your bad hand, or raise your bad arm, and they'll all laugh. And nobody wants that to get worse. So yeah, I didn't think so. All right, so now here's an easy question. Who wants to just get started with fixing their shoulder pain? Finding out the cause and getting physical therapy started so you can get back to being your old self again and no more of that stop living that I had written up here before. Raise your hand, your good arm. And some will raise and some will be hesitant. Say, it's okay, raise your arm if you want to get started with physical therapy. And they will. And so, okay, so now I want all you people to stand up. It's okay? Yeah, go ahead, stand up. All right. So I'm going to ask you to do something in just a minute, but first I want you to know that you don't need a doctor's note for physical therapy. Okay? And if you have any questions about insurance or billing or any of that stuff, Sue and Maria are going to be able to answer that question for you. So what I want you to do is I want all you guys that are standing, go walk over to Sue and Maria. Yeah, right now, go ahead. It's okay, go on and encourage them. Yeah, head over there. I'm going to be here all day to answer questions. So go talk to them first, and then I'll be happy to answer your questions later. And so they kind of meander off whoever those people are. Okay, so now, who in here who has shoulder pain and wants to find out the cause and how to fix it, but you're really not sure if physical therapy is the answer? You know, same thing. Encourage. Okay, all right. So here's what I'd like to do for you guys. We don't do this very often, but we want to offer this kind of mass free opportunity to come in for what we call a discovery visit, where you can talk with a physical therapist. They'll ask you some questions, they'll poke and prod you a little bit, and they'll be able to determine what the specific cause of your pain is and what getting it back to working, successful treatment really looks like. We want to take all the risk out of this for you, so it's completely free. There's absolutely no obligation. Personally, I think you're crazy if you don't go for a free discovery visit, but we want to get you some answers so that you can decide on your own. It's not a big high pressure thing. We get you the answers. You decide what it is you want to do. So who would like a free discovery visit? And some people may raise their hands, and then you lead into, okay, so there's a slight catch. We don't have a lot of spots available because we've had tons of people signing up for things. You know, we're doing 6 talks today, and we're doing some other promotional events to get the office going and the word out. So we don't have very many spots, so you're going to have to decide that today. Like I said, we don't do this big free mass discovery visit, and we're not going to do another shoulder pain workshop like this probably for 2 or 3 months. So if you'd like to do that, you need to schedule that today. Otherwise, everything's going to fill up, and honestly, we're not going to be offering this after today. So sign up. Everybody who wants to come sign up or come stand up and go over. Sue and Maria can help you with that free discovery visit. And like I said, I'm going to be here all day to answer questions. So come back and find me later once you've gotten all signed up. Great, all those people are on their way. And now you get some people who haven't decided anything. So then it's just, so does anybody have any questions? If it's questions about doctor's note, or well, if it's do I need a doctor's note? No, you don't. Don't go into all the details of the specifics. Say, no, you don't need a doctor's note. If it's anything else about insurance or money, say, you know what, great question. Maria and Sue can answer those for you, answer those other questions, and we always have the opportunity of the clock. So you know what, I've only got about 5 minutes because we've got to get set up for the next one. So anybody have any questions? And is there nobody any pressing questions? Great, all right. Well, thank you guys very much, and you guys have a great day. Boom. Ta-da.